Okay, so I'm making a t-shirt quilt for my son, and some of these t-shirts were of he actually worn, and then some I just rebought to make because what's happening is they're a size large, and some of his t-shirts of when he was younger was not. Because some of his t-shirts when he was younger was really small. So in order to do the t-shirt, to create the t-shirt quilt, we want everything to be symmetrical. We want everything to be measurement about the same. Because what I'm doing is a little more simplistic t-shirt instead of doing all the borders. Because I can use those t-shirts, but I'd create borders. So I'm going to just create something more simplistic for now. And this is my first quilt I'm making. And through watching YouTube videos and a couple of books that I have, just creating some ideas of how I want to do it. So you may see things differently if you watched any videos and stuff a little differently from how I'm doing it, but I'm kind of using my sewing abilities along with my crafting, in anything that I've done over the years. I'm just going to do it to how I envision how to do it myself from taking fashion design and from learning sewing and everything. So I'm just going to do this my own way. Some people may do it similar, some may not. Now what I want to do is, my husband and I brainstormed of how we're going to do it. So he basically, can I see your plan layout? These are the t-shirts. Most people will do the 12 and a half when you're using the t-shirt ruler. Here's the t-shirt ruler, and it already has your markings that you need. So for the t-shirt ruler, it has 3 variations: 10 and a half, 12 and a half, 15 and a half. We are going to do the 15 and a half because, as you can see, this particular t-shirt is smaller in size compared to the other t-shirts, and the logo is very big, pretty much bigger. And we want to be, this is on the skimmings, it's barely going to fit, but I will make it work. And the seam allowance is going to be right pretty much on this is the seam allowance, it gives you the seam allowance. It's going to be pretty much right on the lettering. So I'm going to still bring it down. I may cut off a little bit of this, but that's okay, as long as we have the lettering. So we basically did a blueprint of how we're going to do everything. My husband helped. And so what we're doing is we're going to make little corners, and we have the fabric back there. It's American, it's like hearts and homes and stuff. It's American fabric. And so this is what we're going to be using. Let me do a full screen.
Sorry.
Alright, put it down. So this is what we're going to be for the little corner. So like maybe I'll do like a little heart, and I'll do that, or maybe a little star. So we're going to implement this into this for the corners, and then this is going to be the border, and this is going to be red. These are going to be the t-shirts with no borders. The t-shirts are just going to be sewn on its own, and you can do borders if you want. We're just going to make it simple. So now for the back, we're going to use the Capitals fabric. It tells a story, so it's memorable. And it's such a nice, you can make a bunch of quilts and it'll be like a storybook quilt. And it will make your stories as you go. Alright, so what we're going to do is, we're going to first cut it kind of, kind of just a rough cut. You can recycle if you want, depending how you cut it. You can recycle your fabric if you want. You can use, say if you wanted anything plain, you can use your t-shirt to do squares and stuff like that. So, I mean, we could also keep the backs to this and then maybe implement it into a quilt later. So that all depends on your preference. Okay, so I have my cutting board underneath. All right. Okay, so what I am going to do now is just a quick cut. I'm going to go ahead, and it's up to you how you want to cut it. Alright, so we're going to cut that, and then we're going to go ahead and cut. Since we have a little more fabric, this one's not too bad. You can cut it however you want. I'm a little picky when it comes to cutting stuff, so I do things differently. No right and wrong way. It's your t-shirt. You want to use the cutter, use the other one. Let's just cut. I'm not too worried about if it's straight at the moment because it's just going to get straight later, which I might use the cutter for that one. This is like a rough draft of your cutting. You know, when you're doing pattern making, rough drafts. Rough drafts of any kind of sewing. Okay. Okay. And what I will do is, let's cut this. Let's cut this. Now, if you wanted to use this for a scrap, there's a good example. Maybe I'll keep that. Maybe I'll use it for a scrap. Makes for good recycling if I want to have like a border around a t-shirt, or I don't know. The possibilities are basically endless, as the saying goes. Okay, so now that I have this one done, I'm going to go ahead and cut the other ones before I actually cut the fusing. So there's one. Now this is the one, Plants vs. Zombies, that I'm gonna have to cut with a little more care. Because of the limited fabric space I have. So let's just cut. Cut the arms. Let's just put it aside. My iron's over there. Right. Alright, let's see. Alright, let's just use this to cut. And then cut the sleeve. Go. The seams. Okay, so this is the one that's going to be really tight with the ruler. So the reason why I am cutting it a little bigger like this is because when I do the fusing, I'm going to do a little bigger because, as you can see, it stretches. So we want to get an accurate measurement, and we want to fuse it to stop it from stretching so much. So I'm going to go ahead and leave quite a bit of space, and then we'll just cut it around with the ruler. The ruler guides us as to how to cut it into a square. Alright. Alright, so we have our Pokemon. So basically this is going to be pretty much a gaming quilt for my teen gamer. Now what you're supposed to do is, this seems a little off the Pokemon, the way the t-shirt is stretching out here. see if we can rearrange and readjust it. Little wrinkled. I can use my press cloth later before I actually do that, and I can press it because of the picture. You don't want the iron to melt that, so I can press it before I put the fusing on it. So here we go. So I'm readjusting the t-shirt. I opened it up a little bit, readjusted it, because we don't want to... See, and you can kind of tell it seems to be the way it was designed. There is a little less on this side, a little more. See if we can wing this. So basically we're using this for the center markings, and then we're going to go from there. So this is going to be a tight. See, the seam is right here. So I'm going to be super careful how I cut this. Wow. I don't want to be too off in my... I'm just going to be super careful how I cut that. That's a little close to the edge. Okay. Like, there's this much to where the seam is. There's only like, looks like 1/4 of an inch. Maybe 3/4. So, let's be careful when we're cutting that. Alright. So let's cut this t-shirt. How I'm using as a base guide is basically the crease on the side because there's no seams. So let's get a little more of the sleeve. All right. Let's cut a little more over for the sleeve, just because. There we go. All right. I'm gonna cut this one off. There we go. Want to make an adjustment that way to make it a little better. Okay. Let's cut here. Alright, so this one had a little more, so I'm just going to go like this, cut this one a little more freely. Let's cut. There's the Pokemon. Now this one's going to be another one where it's going to be extremely, extremely tight. because of how big the lettering is. Now this has a very distressed look to it. So if it cuts off a little bit, it'll be fine. So if that part gets cut off and then sewn, it's not going to be too bad because it has like a little distress. This basically fits. Like just fits without fitting, if that makes sense. Like it's super tight. Doing the 50, that's another reason why I did the 15.5 guide for this t-shirt, because of that. A lot of people may use the 12.5, I don't know, the 10.5. But the reason why I suggested to use the 15, and it already gives you the seam allowance, so it's going to be 15.5. So as you can see, I know it's a little dark, but there's that line. That's the seam allowance. There's your 1/2 inch guide. So already some of it's going to be cut off. So when I do my seam allowance, it's not going to ruin the design of the t-shirt because of the fact that it's pretty much faded here anyways. So I'm not too worried about that. It'll be still fine. And keep in mind that there's going to be seam allowance to go with it. So how much of that did you want to be in the seam allowance? Because when you fold it out, is it going to be, oh my god, I didn't want it to do that? Like, just keep in mind, these are little thoughts to keep in mind when you're doing it. Do you really want to maybe substitute the t-shirt? Maybe you don't mind it being like with the Plants vs. Zombie. Some of the hair on the head is not going to show. And some of the line of the head may end up being in the seam when I unfold it. That's fine. It's memories. Okay, let's see how this is going to look. So here's a great example of not being able to kind of center this one. Okay, so the capitals 1 will not be centered. That's going to be fine. So let me go ahead and cut like this. I mean, what could happen is, there's another alternative. You can just cut that and put a piece of fabric there. Or cut it to, say, 12.5 and then put a border around it to make it 15.5 to match every other one. So, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to go ahead and do it like this because everything's 50 1/2, and I just want to make it simplistic so people can see that quilting can be as simple, and it's not too difficult to work with simplicity. Gets it done quicker. So for now, I'm just going to do it like this, and I'm going to just basically use that as my centerpiece. Okay, so I'll be careful how I cut the neck. And it's still, you know, it's still great to make gifts. Homemade gifts are always the best. This one's a little more stretchier, as you can see. The fabric's a little stretchier. Hence why you do the fusing. Eat, sleep, and win. I thought it'd be funny to have this. Okay, there's another one that's going to be a tight. Ooh, even tight. Okay, I gotta be careful how I do the sleeves. That is going to be super tight. Okay. That's going to be super tight. Measurements. Thank goodness there's the seam allowance on it. But it could stretch a little bit when you put the fusing on. Because that's part of the reason why you do the fusing. Hopefully it won't make it shrink a little, but fusing is very important so the t-shirts aren't stretched. Because once you, say if you wash your quilt or anything, or use it for a long time, it's definitely going to lose shape. Fusing is very important because knit stretches so much. Looks like a muscle shirt right now. There we go. Let's do this. Try to do this because the seam allowance that sticks there makes it a little harder to get right along the edge, the serging part. But I'll do my best. All right. Here's some more Twitch. I did Boop at the beginning. Joshua, and so was my son and Smirky, Gear Up, and Mega Snoop. The story behind these ones is because they were very frequent on Toontown. And Smirky basically solely does Toontown. And so Matt has switched over and changed over to various gamings, Gear Up. And Mega Snoop, same thing. He does a lot of Fortnite right now. The COG, I think it's for the COG gloves. I think it's the COG. And there's a couple of Halloweens I made my son Halloween costumes for Toontown. So he's really big on Toontown. So this is going to also, even though it's my t-shirt, I'm going to give it to him. Basically, not only gives him memories of being on Twitch in a Mega Snoop stream, but it also gives him the Toontown memory. This also represents Toontown. And this is Mega Snoop's emote that he actually uses in his channel. So that's why I decided to do that, to give him a memory of that. See, every little t-shirt has a story to it, and then the whole entire quilt has all your little mini stories. It's like a big storybook of a chapter of a story with the various pages as t-shirts. And it's quite nice to be able to tell your story. I have another Mega Snoop t-shirt, so I'm good. Alright, so we want to make sure that's kind of going a little crooked. Hang on a sec. See what I mean by sometimes you have to shake it out. Shake it out! Shake the t-shirt out. Shake it out, shake it out. Let me shake it out. That's a little crooked. Alright, let's shake it out because that's going crooked. So now here's Smirky's. Smirk on. I'm just in love with this emote. This is one of his emotes. Smirk on. And it's just super cute. And this is another emote that references to Toontown. So this also is a great memory for him for Toontown and certain characters that are within Toontown. So this is why I decided to use my t-shirts for the quilt, and he'll have it. And I mean, I can even just hang my quilt up in the back too to have a decoration. I mean, I guess too for quilts, if you're gonna hang it up, kind of have little loops to kind of hang it on a rod. Okay, so now that that's all done, what I'm going to do now is for the fusing,